All right, so episode 8 of the Celebrity Traitors. So, Alan explained that there was only 7 people left in the game, and he said that the more time he spends with people, the more time he bonds with them. The more time he spends with them, the more that he bonds with them. So it's obviously more difficult to get rid of people out of the game. Kat explained that it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. David explained that they all get on so well, that's probably why they're not doing well. Nick explained that he has fallen into the cliches of the game, you know, the whole he, she is a traitor, he, she isn't, he, she is faithful, I'm 100% faithful, all of that sort of stuff. Kate explained she thought it was easier to find the traitors, but she's been bedazzled by people's personalities. And she actually said that she felt a little bit more inspired and she's learnt so much from the others. So what's happened here with the final 7 is that they had a little dinner, and little did the traitors know there was a little mission coming. But they all kind of just revealed, you know, what their gameplay like styles were like, how they kind of got to this position of the game, how happy they all are to kind of be here. And I think kind of aside from the actual game aspect, just getting to meet new people, you know, they're all famous. They're all part of different industries. You know, you've got some musicians, you've got some comedians, you've got some TV presenters, you know, you've got actresses and things like that. People that, you know, they might all know of each other. They might kind of know part of their, you know, work and stuff from the past. But to actually spend time with them and actually try and work out game plans and stuff with them, it's a completely different ball game. So yeah, some of the other things mentioned is Kat said it's been difficult knowing what to say when meeting people. Joe didn't think it would affect him as much as it has, but it has. Celia explained it's a clever game, but it's cruel. Potentially, you know, she just quickly changed and was like, surely we're sitting with at least 2 traitors. And then, yeah, Alan and Kat basically had a little chat. Well, they didn't have a chat at the dinner table, but they had, you know, that little envelope. And obviously it revealed that someone had to be murdered in plain sight. And Alan basically questioned, well, how am I supposed to do this in plain sight? He's already had to do it once, right at the beginning, but it's almost like Kat's nominated him to do it again. So in terms of the next day, obviously it was breakfast time, so the 7 had now become 6. Kat explained that she felt quite cool coming into breakfast, and only Alan would have been able to do something like what he did. Alan said to Kat that he felt like it was really obvious what happened, and Kat said, no, just, you know, keep your mouth closed and hopefully no one will have noticed what happened. Joe explained that he obviously remembered that he had a shield, and obviously kind of, you know, dig in at Alan because Alan forgot he had a shield, and Joe basically thought that he was a traitor, but he doesn't think enough people are on side to vote for Alan, so he's not going to mention anything right now. He's going to either vote for David or Kate. And he also said that Alan kind of deflects from being the traitor by comedy. You know, people think he's funny, so he uses comedy as a way to, you know, get people to not think that he's the traitor. So basically the traitors, we found out the 3 people that didn't come back to breakfast were Nick, Celia and David. So obviously one of the 3 of them was about to get murdered. And it turned out that both Nick and David came back. So Celia had been murdered in plain sight the previous night. She explained that it's been gorgeous and she wanted to stay until the end. Joe explained that it's made him now want to get the traitors even harder, and the next mission was got to keep your head in the game, which I thought was a High School Musical reference, but it wasn't. And basically we saw a little replay of what happened the previous night where Alan had to say this magical phrase and do a cheers to someone and also say their name, and he happened to just do it to the person that was next to him, so poor Celia, so she was obviously taken out of the game. Kat explained that the faithfuls overthink a little bit too much. I can't see what the next part says. I think Nick, Kat and Joe kind of all discussed that Celia's idea of people rallying together is kind of what saw her go out of the game. And Joe explained that he can't ignore the vote from Jonathan Ross, kind of like a fellow dig at another traitor, David. And Nick also explained that Alan has had absolutely no heat at the round table so far. I think Kate basically said here that their plan hadn't really worked. And, you know, they haven't even worked out who managed to kill Paloma in plain sight. Nick explained to David that he'd never suspected David, and he thinks that it was Kat who suggested the whole Legends idea. Joe M made a good case, and he wouldn't be able to believe it if Joe was a traitor. And David said to Joe, David said to Nick that Joe could be one of the three traitors who has kind of run his own path. Although there are traitors, they're supposed to, work together. Joe is one of those confident people who might have just upon himself decided to work on his own. Joe was talking to Alan and Kat, saying, look, I hope neither of you did that to my Celia. And obviously both of Alan and Kat were the two that, did take out Celia from the game. And Kate explained to Nick and David that Celia was really good at confusing people. And David said that the traitors are not working together, with Joe saying he's going to go for either Kate or David. And then Alan kind of was just like to whoever he was in the car with, Kate Garraway, more like Kate go away. And then the next mission was avoid the lasers. So there was £14,000 up for grabs to put into the prize pot. David kind of worked out that there were little buttons and machines to kind of turn the different lasers off. We found out that Kat, David and Alan managed to set off the lasers at least once. Joe said that Alan was very impressive, and it would be even more impressive if, he was a traitor. And Alan said he would kiss his own plastic face. Kat basically explained that she was suspicious of Kate potentially being a traitor. And Kate said, look, you're not going to get a faithful out if you banish me. I don't often have to convince people. It's a new skill that I've had to learn. And then Nick, Alan, Kat and Joe were all discussing, and Joe said, at least Kate or David are one of the two that I'm going to go for. Joe explained that he had suspicions with Kate. Nick said he didn't really have much else to go on. And Nick explained that both Jonathan Ross and Kat could also work well together, but it's a dangerous move if he wants to try and target someone like that so late on in the game. Alan explained he's worried about the round table. He's going to take a back seat and hopefully people don't analyse the dinner too much. Kat explained that maybe people are suspicious of her, but there's nothing that people are able to actually completely cling on to. And Kate said her name's in the frame, but she's not going to give up. So I think straight at the round table, Kate said, people think it could be me. Kat said it's good to be, asking questions and coming forward to the table. So it's good that, she wants people to know, or she wants people to know that she's a faithful, but she also wants to know from other people why they think she's a traitor. Kate also basically said that she does a job that requires her to ask questions of people, without making judgments or assumptions. So I think that's kind of one of the reasons why she's not kind of bringing names to the table, because she just kind of sees everyone as kind of like an open book, which I completely understand. But in this game, you have to, be throwing names, or you have to be throwing theories around. Otherwise, you get looked at straight away. So Joe also said that, Kate in this game kind of seems to be like a little bit, not behind, but like towards the back and things like that. Whereas in her professional career, she's like on it, she's asking the questions and things like that. And Kate said, well, obviously it's a very different environment. And, people might think that I'm just ditzy or stupid or whatever, but that's not the type of character that she is. Nick said that there's something about her that makes him think that she's actually a faithful because of the pressure of the tonight's vote, and obviously it's at this point in the game. He then tried to change the conversation to say, I've been trying to work out who would make good gameplay with someone like one of those legends who's got boldness, and he potentially said, somebody like Kat. She referred to herself as a duck. She said from the outside she looks really relaxed, and from the inside she looks really relaxed and the rest of it, but on the outside there's so much flapping, so she's one of those mixed kind of personality type characters, like she's confident but also not, depending on the situation. And Nick explained that Kat's been under fire the least at this point in the game, so maybe that's even more of a reason for her to obviously be a traitor. David also added that the traitors must have voted for themselves, because for Jonathan, he was the only one that didn't vote for Jonathan, so there were others that voted for the other traitors. So I'm going to move on to episode 8, part 2, coming up in another video, and we are nearly at the end of the show. We're nearly going to find out who the winner is. I actually know who the winner is already, but I'm going to do my last 2 reviews and then reveal that at the end.